Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in 2024. This list is low-key disappointing because for some background context, back in 2022, I managed to read 52 books. In 2023, I read 32 books. Last year, the grand total of 14 books. Very sad, but honestly, as I've gotten older and gone through more of my education, junior and senior year of high school, I had so much time to read, but now in college, I barely have any time to read. So that's why this list is really short. And 2022 me would be so disappointed in myself, but she had to learn that she has a lot of responsibilities now and she has to deal with it. But anyway, let's just get right into it. So the first book that I read in 2024 was Powerless, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. At the time, I considered this my most favorite book of all time. And honestly, I don't know if that still stands because I haven't really read in a while, but to this day, it is still my favorite book of all time. It's a romantic fantasy book. It's very much Hunger Games. It's very much like Harry Potter. I've heard some people say that it is exactly the same as Red Queen, but honestly, I thought it was still really good. So this book deals with Pei, who is an ordinary, which basically means she has no powers, living in a kingdom full of people who have different types of powers. And in this kingdom, if you don't have powers and if you're considered an ordinary, then you will be... But she lived her life trying to hide the fact that she's an ordinary. So one day she gets selected for the trials, which is kind of like the Hunger Games, and she has to go through 3 different trials in order to be able to win the games. And while she's at this, she meets one of the princes of the kingdom called Kai, who's the future enforcer, and she just has a little romance going on with him. And she's also trying to find a way in order to bring the ordinaries out of the dark, so for them to be able to live with the rest of the extraordinaries in peace. So she's dealing with that, trying to take down the system. She's trying to take down the king who killed her father. She's also trying to, survive and keep her friend in the slums, still be there for her. And honestly, it was just so good. I do have a bookmark because I've been trying to read Powerful for months. I just got in a huge reading slump and haven't been able to read it. I did get this when I visited the UK and I'm still not done. I literally got this, when did I go to the UK? Last May. And I wanted to read them at the same time to prepare for the second book, which I still haven't read. But trust me, it'll get read eventually. The next book that I read was King of Battle and Blood, which I say read because I DNF'd this book. I thought this book was so terrible. I literally can't tell you anything about this book because I genuinely just don't care to remember because it was so bad, you guys. It was so bad. Honestly, you guys, I really don't care to talk about this book, because genuinely I don't want you to waste your time. Luckily, I'm pretty sure this was a birthday present, so I didn't have to waste my money on it, but it's about vampires. It's to put an end to a war, I think. And I thought this was shit. I don't even remember how far I got. I think I only got to page 50 because I thought it was just so bad. I literally could not do it. I'm so sorry. I know you should give it a chance, but it's a no for me. The next book that I read was Binding 13, which I gave a 1 out of 5 stars. I did read the whole thing. Took for freaking ever because that book is ginormous, but I just didn't like it. I felt like the story was very repetitive. You have Shannon who moved to a new school. She has a really shitty at-home family, a really shitty life. And then she meets Johnny, and honestly, it's just very repetitive. She keeps on talking about how she's so small, and there's he's 17 and she's 15 or something, and he's I can't get involved with her because she's too young. Y'all are basically the same age. It was so annoying. It was this back and forth, the same thing over and over again. And a lot of rugby. I don't care about rugby. And people love this series. People love this book, but honestly, the fact that the writing felt super low for me, and the fact that someone easily could have written this in Wattpad when they were 13, 10 years ago, it just wasn't good. I just didn't think it was good at all. I thought it was so boring. Again, I've said it again, super repetitive. And I just don't get why people like this book. And again, it's my opinion. If you like that book, don't know how, but you like it. But it's just my opinion, so I did not like Binding 13. I am so sorry. So the next book that I read was Divine Rivals, and at the time, I thought this book was so amazing. It genuinely competed with Powerless because I thought that this was just awesome. I did give this a 5 out of 5 stars, so trust me that it is very good. So basically, there's this world where the gods are at war, which means that the whole world is facing a war. So you have Iris, her mother is battling with an addiction, her brother is currently lost at the front lines, she has not heard from him in months. So the only way in order for her to be able to support her family is if she wins the columnist promotion at this newspaper place that she works at. And she's also has a little enemy there, because this is a little bit of enemies to lovers. She has an enemy named Roman who's also competing for the same position as her, and they have really good banter. So she really misses her brother, and she's given this magical typewriter where she sends messages, or like she types up the messages, she sends them underneath a door, and they get transported. So she finds it, she starts typing, and she thinks she's talking to her brother, but in reality she's talking to Roman. So the whole time they're corresponding, and then eventually something bad happens, so she decides that the only thing in order to save her life, I guess, or not really save her life, to be able to like move on with her life, is to find her brother. And the only way that she does that is by transferring to cover the news at the front lines. So she goes to work at the front lines, and Roman also follows her because he realizes that he can't be without her, which I'm like, bro, that's so romantic. Anyway, I thought this book was amazing. It was nothing like I had ever read or heard about before, so please trust me on this one. I would love to see this as a movie, but let's be real, most of the time book to movie adaptations are terrible, so I don't want them to see it ruined. I haven't read the second book yet. I do have it, but again, I've been in such a slump, and now I just started the new semester, my new spring semester, so I don't know when I'll get to the second book, but this was amazing. It made me cry. It was beautiful. And yeah, that was Divine Rival. The next book that I read was Keeping 13, and I did DNF this book. I thought it was so bad. Again, the same problems with the first book. Repetitive, nothing kept on going forward. The writing was horrible. I just didn't, it literally just picks up right where the last book ended, so I honestly can't tell you guys anything about the book because I don't remember, and I don't feel like wasting my time and trying to remember it because I did not like it, and I am not recommending that book. So that was Keeping 13. The next book that I read was All Roads Lead to Here, which I gave a 4.75 out of 5 stars. I really love this book, and if you read any Mariana Zapata books, you know that she is the queen of slow burn. Like, this might be a thickie, but trust me, she is worth it. She is entirely worth it. All of her romance books are amazing. I love all of them. So basically, you have Aurora, who moves back to her childhood hometown because she wants to be closer with her mother since her mother passed away. She meets Rhodes, and she rents out like his garage to live in. She also meets his son Amos, and they form like a little bond, and she's just trying to reconnect with old people. She's trying to find a way to reconnect with her mom, and it's just a very beautiful story of like her dealing with her grief, but also having that romance subplot. Like, that's the thing with Mariana Zapata books. It's not just the romance. Like, yes, it's mainly a romance book, but there's also other elements that make it feel more than just a romance book, and I loved it. It was amazing. I love all of Mariana Zapata's work. She can do no wrong. And yeah, that was All Roads Lead Here. The next book that I read was Love in a Time of Serial Killers, and I did give this a 1 out of 5 star. I personally didn't like it. Again, I feel like the writing was not good. It just didn't keep me entertained, but that's just my personal opinion. So this book follows Phoebe, who's always been obsessed with true crime, and she's moving back into her childhood home to clear it out to sell it because her dad recently passed away, and she's doing all this while still trying to write her dissertation essay, and she's also trying to reconnect with her younger brother. Her new next door neighbor is Sam, who she at first suspects that is like a serial killer because of all her obsession with true crime, but he obviously isn't. So this book mainly just follows her trying to finish her dissertation, trying to reconnect with her brother, clear out the house and deal with the loss of her father, while also still trying to fit in that romance with Sam. And that was honestly Love in a Time of Serial Killers. Honestly, it really wasn't memorable. Like, I don't really remember that much about it. The next book that I read was Flawless, which I gave a 4.75 out of 5 stars. So this is a cowboy romance book. So you follow Ed, who's a professional like bull rider, until one day he like ruins everything and loses almost all of his sponsors. So his agent sends his daughter Summer to go monitor him and keep him on track, like get him back on track to get back his sponsorship, get him good publicity again. And so it also follows their romance because duh, why wouldn't it? And this was my first Elsie Silver book, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very fast-paced book. It's not too much thinking. It's just so good. Like, I like it because it was so simple. It was so fast to read. So a little closer to the summertime, my sister and my brother-in-law went to Portugal, and they bought me Immortality from Portugal, which is awesome because look at this stamp, and they bought this book from one of the oldest libraries in the world, and this stamp is its approval that it was bought from there. So I didn't know anything about this book. Like, I've seen it before, but I didn't really know much. And as if you would know, then you would know that this is the second book. So I had to read the first one, which is how I ended up reading Anatomy, which I really enjoyed. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. and it follows a girl named Hazel in the 17th century who dreams of becoming a surgeon. And if you know anything about history, you know that history hated women for a long time, so she obviously wasn't allowed to be a surgeon. She meets Jack, who's a resurrection man who digs up bodies to sell them so doctors can practice on them. So she strikes up a deal with him to be able to dig up bodies so she can continue with her studies, because she did attend a lecture as a man, but she was found out, so she was kicked out. So that was the way she was able to continue with her studies. I loved this book. I thought it was so cool, and there's obviously a little romance subplot which I thought was super sweet, and it did make me suffer at the end of the book. But luckily, I didn't have to wait that long because I already had the second book, and it's Immortality. Can't really say too much about this book without it being a spoiler, but it just picks up right where the end of the book left off. Something happens with Hazel and Jack, and it follows their story. Hazel gets accused of a crime, so now she's dealing with that, and then the way that she's able to get out of being, you know, punished for her crime. I can't really say much, but I really like this book. It was also a 4 out of 5 for me. And I wish I could say more, but it's book 2, so you can't really read this one unless you read book 1. So now we enter the era where I just read online books for the rest of the year, because if it was free and TikTok was recommending it to me, I was finding a free PDF. First book of this list is King of Greed by Ana Huang. Now, I have read books by Ana Huang before. I read Twisted Love and Twisted Games, and I thought they were absolute hot garbage, and I was like, I'm literally never going to read anything from Ana Huang ever again, because it just was not good. But then again, I saw some quotes on TikTok and like some scenarios about King of Greed, and I'm like, let me give her a second chance, because she might have cooked here. Unfortunately, she did not. I did give it a 2 out of 5. It is what it is. So it follows this couple, Alessandra and Dominic, who have been married for 10 years. Dominic is a billionaire, and they recently just got through a divorce. And honestly, like, I know it was a second chance romance, but I was not rooting for them to get back together. Like, as I was reading and read more, I was like, damn, this girl does not deserve Dominic. Dominic is a horrible man, a horrible husband. As the years went by, he kind of stopped paying attention to her and her marriage, and that's why they got divorced. And she said that she wanted to be her own person, like, because she never really got to do that. In the book, she was able to open up her own business, and I was like, yes, girl, period. But throughout the book, as she's obviously divorced, her family, her friends, his friends were saying that they needed to get back together with him. And I was just so annoyed that they didn't let her be her own person. Like, she didn't want to get back with him. Like, yes, she still loved him, but for a while she didn't want to get back with him. Like, and I was like so annoyed that everyone was so insistent that, oh, like, you should give him another chance, like, give him a second chance. Like, no, he is not a good husband, he is not a good man. Like, it just made me mad, y'all. It made me so mad that everyone was so insistent when she just wanted to be her own person. That's why I could not like this book. I only liked this book because, yes, some of the romance parts were cute, but it frustrated me that no one let her do what she wanted. So the next book in my series of online books was Gold Digger by Susie Tate, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5. Now again, I also did find this book through TikTok. I thought, you know what, this book looks simple enough to read, very fast paced, so that's why I decided to read it. So you follow Oliver, who is super rich. He's a businessman, he's a duke from the UK, and you follow his maid Lottie. And so Lottie is working at this job in order to be able to keep her sister with her, because her grandparents want to take the sister away from her. And so it's obviously a romance book. It follows them from them being like employer and employee to them eventually like falling in love, and then a bunch of stuff happens, and then they stop talking, but then they reconcile. And honestly, it wasn't that special. It was just I wanted to read something, and it was free online, so I just decided to read it. But that was Gold Digger. It did have some good quotes on TikTok. That's why I was like, wait, this sounds good, because I love those books where one of them is like royalty. I love it. But it was okay. If you want a fast-paced TikTok rec book, then read Gold Digger. It's very Cinderella story-esque. The next book that I read was The Brightest Light of Sunshine, which follows Grace, who has a very traumatic past, who, in order to move on with her healing journey, decides to get a tattoo to keep her moving forward. And that's where she meets Cal, who's the tattoo artist. And he also has a little sister, a 4-year-old sister named Maddie, who he's trying to take care of because his mother and her father aren't really there for Maddie. So he's doing his best, and he doesn't really want to fall in love with her because there is an age gap, so he doesn't really feel comfortable, which I get. In real life, I don't like age gap romances. I think they're weird, but in books they're fine. But anyway, he's trying to avoid her, but eventually they form a friendship, and then they form a relationship. I didn't really think this book was all that. I thought it would be better because I did see a lot of people hype it up on TikTok. It wasn't that good. I'm so sorry, you guys. I feel like these explanations are like so bad, but honestly, I'm remembering all this from memory, and the past semester, the past year was very hard on me, so I don't really remember the books I read. I'm sorry, y'all. Sue me. So we finally made it to the last book of 2024, which is another book that TikTok recommended me that I found for free online. Yay, are we shocked? No, we're not. So the name of the book is Until the World Falls Down, which I honestly enjoyed. I read it in a day. And I gave it, I think, a 3 out of 5 stars. So it follows this heartbroken woman named Nell who meets an immortal being, Enver, who I'm pretty sure grants like anyone's deepest desire or something like that. But in order to do that, she has to, like, she goes with him to his home. Guys, this book was weird. She goes with him to his home and she has to complete a labyrinth in 48 hours. If not, she becomes like trapped there. And so like her journey on this labyrinth takes her to like other people doing the same labyrinth, and she helps them through their own journeys, which I really liked that part where she like helps everyone else out. And I like seeing everyone else's different like what they want and how she's helping them get it. And honestly, that's all I remember from the book. I read this in December and no me acuerdo, no sé, I don't know. But I think it was pretty new because I haven't seen that many people talk about it. I've seen like a few like videos about it on TikTok, but not too much. But yeah, that was Until the World Falls Down. Anyway, guys, that was all of the books I read in 2024. Hopefully this year I'm able to read more. I really want to get back on track with reading. I want to fall in love with reading again and read as many books as I read in 2022 and 2023. And if it doesn't happen, that sucks. But everyone keep your fingers crossed and help me reach my goal. I want to try and read at least 20 books. I didn't even make it in 2024, and I don't think it's going to be that difficult. But I don't know how realistic that's going to be because this spring semester and the fall semester, and even I'm going to take some classes in the summer, they're going to be a little challenging. But let's all cross our fingers. Let's all hope that I can do it. And I would really appreciate it if you guys leave me some book recs in the comments below. And yeah, that was my book reads of 2024. Bye, guys.